Hearing some yeses, hearing some nos. So let's see how it goes. Three soldiers trudged down a road in a strange country. They were on their way home from the wars. Besides being tired, they were hungry. In fact, they had eaten nothing for 2 days. "Oh, how I would like a good dinner tonight," said the first. "Ah, and a bed to sleep in," said the second. "Ah, but all that is impossible," said the third. "We must march on." On they marched. Suddenly, ahead of them, they saw the lights of a village. "Maybe we'll find a bite to eat there," said the first. "Oh, and a loft to sleep in," said the second. "No harm in asking," said the third. Now, the peasants of that place feared strangers. When they heard that three soldiers were coming down the road, they talked amongst themselves. Here come three soldiers. Soldiers are always hungry, but we have little enough for ourselves." They pushed sacks of barley under the hay in the loft. They lowered buckets of milk down the wells. They spread old quilts over the carrot bins. They hid their cabbages and potatoes under their beds. They hung their meat in cellars. They hid all they had to eat. And then they waited. The soldiers stopped first at the house of Paul and Francois. "Good evening to you," they said. "Could you spare a bit of food for 3 hungry soldiers?" "We have no food for ourselves in 3 days," said Paul. Francois made a sad face. "It has been a poor harvest." The 3 soldiers went on to the house of Albert and Louise. "Could you spare a bit of food? And have you some corner where we could sleep for the night?" Oh no," said Albert. We gave all we could spare to the soldiers that came before you." "Our beds are full," said Louise. At Vincent and Marie's, the story was the same. It had been a poor harvest, and all the grain must be kept for seed. So it went all through the village. Not a peasant had any food to give away. And they all had good reasons. One family had used the grain for feed. Another had an old, sick father to take care of. All had too many mouths to feed. The villagers stood on the street and they sighed. They looked as hungry as they could. The 3 soldiers talked to each other. Then the first soldier called out, "Good people!" The peasants drew near. "We are 3 hungry soldiers in a strange land. We have asked you for food, and you have no food. Well then, we will have to make stone soup." The peasants stared. Stone soup? That would be something to know about. "First, we will need a large iron pot," the soldiers said. The peasants brought out the largest pot they could find. That's none too large," said the soldiers, "but it will do. And now, water to fill it and fire to heat it." It took many buckets of water to fill the pot. A fire was built on the village square and the pot was set to boil. "And now, if you please, 3 round, smooth stones." Those were easy enough to find. The peasants' eyes grew round as they watched the soldiers drop the stones into the pot. "Any soup needs salt and pepper," said the soldiers as they began to stir. Children ran to get the salt and pepper. "Stones like these generally make a good soup. But oh, if there were carrots, it would be so much better." "Why, I think I have a carrot or 2, said Francois, and off she ran. She came back with her apron full of carrots from the bin beneath the red quilt. "A good stone soup should have cabbage," said the soldiers as they sliced the carrots into the pot. "But no use asking what you don't have." "I think I could find a cabbage somewhere," said Marie, and she hurried home. Back she came with 3 cabbages from the cupboard under the bin. If only we had some beef and a few potatoes, the soup would be good enough for a rich man's table. The peasants thought that over. They remembered hanging the potatoes and the sides of beef that they hung in the cellars. They ran to fetch them. A rich man's soup, and all from a few stones? It was like magic. Ah, sighed the soldiers as they stirred in the beef and potatoes. Why, if only we had a little barley and a cup of milk, the soup would be fit for the king himself. Indeed, he asked for just such a soup when we last dined with him. The peasants looked at each other. The soldiers had entertained the king? Well. Oh, but it's no use asking for what you don't have, the soldiers sighed. The peasants brought their barley from the lofts. They brought their milk from the wells. The soldiers stirred in the barley and the milk into the steaming broth while the peasants stared. At last, the soup was ready. All of you shall taste, the soldiers said, but first a table must be set. Great tables were set in the square, and all around were lighted torches. Such a soup! How good it smelled! Truly fit for a king. But then the peasants asked themselves, would such a soup not require bread, and a roast, and cider? Soon a banquet was spread and everyone sat down to eat. Never had there been such a feast. Never had the peasants tasted such a soup. And fancy that, made from stones. They ate and drank and ate and drank, and after that they danced. They danced and sang far into the night. At last they were tired. Then the three soldiers asked, is there not a loft in which we could sleep? Let three such wise and splendid gentlemen sleep in a loft? Indeed, they must have the best beds in the village. So the first soldier slept in the priest's house. The second soldier slept in the baker's house. And the third soldier slept in the mayor's house. In the morning, the whole village gathered in the square to give them a send-off. Many thanks for what you have taught us, the peasants said to the soldiers. We shall never go hungry now that we know how to make soup from stones. Oh, it's all in knowing how, said the soldiers, and off they went down the road.
Yeah!